Hi, and welcome to another episode of Piano TV. So what we're going to do today is we're going to work on another Beethoven piece. This is his Russian air. It's from a collection of 10 national airs, opus 107, and it was originally written for flute and piano, but obviously we're just going to do a piano version today. It's actually quite difficult for a beginner level, so let's jump right in. So for some backstory time, an air in music just refers to a highly vocal sounding composition, usually based from vocal music or folk music. So very, very lyrical, very melodic. So like I mentioned 30 seconds ago, this is from 10 national airs by Beethoven. It was published in 1819, and the nationality of this one, the third one in the collection, is Russian, although there's various nationalities in all the other songs, so it's kind of a fun collection. So what we're going to do today is we're going to just start off, I'm just going to play the song so you can hear what it sounds like, and the sheet music will be going up top, the keyboard stuff. You'll see what I'm talking about, but then you can get the tune in your ear and then we can do more detail work after that. So by and large, the most difficult part of this piece is the tempo, which is marked here as vivace, which means very fast and lively. So don't be surprised or discouraged if this takes you longer than a week to learn, just because it does take a little bit of extra work to get it to that fast tempo. Now let's talk about phrasing for a minute, but first let's look at the slurs. So as you remember, slurs mean that you have to keep the notes within the slur nice and smooth and connected. So phrasing is kind of just like another way to look at slurs, but maybe in more detail. Phrasing implies almost like punctuation. So if you think about when you're speaking sentences, I've talked about this before, you have commas and periods and such and such when you're speaking. And slurs and phrasing can be looked at in much the same way. You can kind of think it as like little thoughts that are broken up by, I don't know, punctuation. And in order to convey that punctuation in music, you want to make sure you actually have like a lift in the sound between phrases. So be very careful that you don't slur notes like this together, or that you're really making sure between sets of notes like this that you have a breath in the sound, as that air really does give a lot of life to the song. I'll show you what that sounds like on the piano. Piano students tend to get very used to slurs, like they're just part of the scenery, and thus pay very little attention to them. But the slurs are telling you a story. So I'm just going to play the first line without any particular phrasing or details or anything like that. And this is what it's going to sound like. Okay, sorry, I played the first two lines. And that's what it sounds like without any attention to the slurs. Here is the correct version. Now the difference is subtle, but it makes a really big difference to the character of the piece. It makes it sound lighter, and yeah, it's just really important to allow music to breathe when you play it. The right hand and the left hand are doing completely different things in this piece. They're kind of off on their own tracks, and it does sync up and sound nice, obviously. But what I would suggest to learn this more effectively is, what I often suggest is to just learn it hand separate first and really get comfortable with the parts by themselves before attempting to put it together. Also note the key signature of the piece, which you have that sharp floating at the beginning. So this is going to be in the key of G, because if you remember G scale has one F sharp. So there's going to be every F in the song, you want to make sure you're playing as an F sharp. You gotta walk before you can run. So once you can play a piece at a comfortable slow tempo without mistakes, that's when it's time to speed it up bit by bit. You don't just want to right out of the gate try to play it super fast, because it's going to be riddled with errors and mistakes. It's important to push yourself and try to push yourself to more difficult tempos, but don't overwhelm yourself. If you're making a lot of mistakes, you have to slow it down a little bit. So maybe a good starting tempo for you might be something like 60 beats per minute, which sounds like this. You might go. Just as an example, and that gives you enough time, and you might even need to use it slower at first, but that gives you enough time to think through all of the different articulations, to pay attention to the slur and the volume, and be able to evoke the character of the piece. Depending on your skill level and how much time you have to practice and to commit to learning pieces, you could expect this to take anywhere between a week to a month. It really can take upwards of a month. Don't be, ashamed if it takes you that long. That's perfectly fine, because to speed things up, it usually works best to speed up in incremental steps as opposed to just like one fell burst, or one fell swoop, I guess is the actual phrase. Thank you for watching this video, and as always, the sheet music can be found linked below in the description tab, and the blog is pianotv.net, where these videos are posted, as well as random blog posts and thoughts that pop in my brain. Thank you for watching, and catch you next time. So in music and air, I don't know why I'm air quoting because it's an air, because it's funny.